News 4, watching out for you.
Let me just say congratulations. We survived the coldest temperatures to hit the St. Louis area in decades. Then with those huge winds, this is where it ended up. Now News 4 is investigating whether this is an indication of a much bigger problem in our area.
I can slide just by pushing my hands, so you can imagine just how slick that is.
A bus crash involving Parkway Elementary School students. Right now, we know multiple people are being transported. He promised this plan would make the city of St. Louis safer. So I sat down for a one-on-one interview with him to ask, did it work? It is gorgeous outside right now. Awesome for a Monday in January.
Right.
Katie, you're saying that's going to be a different story. I want to point something out to you. Police Chief Sam Dodson is already at work, and it is just a little after 5 o'clock. People are getting ready inside, then they run outside quickly. They get in their car for just a second, turn it on, crank up the heat, leave it on as they go back inside to get ready. $500,000 to help transform this Metrolink station into a stop for that high-speed rail. Also new at noon, another major winter storm is taking aim at the nation's mid-Atlantic states today. And get this, it's hitting as far south as the Carolinas. So let me explain it a little bit. This is what you do. You get this yellow dot sticker. You take the back of it off and you put it on the back of your car. I do want to tell you, in that car we've been showing you all morning, there were 2 people in it, and it is now confirmed that 1 person has died.
What we often can't report is the victim's story. Laura Hettiger joins us live from the Central West End. And Laura, you cover a lot of crime, but today's story a little different.
I sure do, Andre, and in fact, I've covered 58 deaths just this year, and I keep count of that number for a couple of reasons. 1, to better track crime and crime trends, and 2, in hopes of following up with those families, and that's what I'm doing today with the story of Kenneth Watkins. I need to tell you, it was actually a police officer who told me about this 22-year-old father who should just be waking up for his final day of college classes. Instead, I wound up meeting his mother, who told me that his life was cut short right inside this apartment building, all because of senseless gun violence.
And I just always told him to be careful, just be careful out there because people are crazy. And his thing is, I'll be okay, Mom.
We first told you about Angela Watkins' son Kenneth in early July. Instead of sharing happier times like his graduation from Kirkwood High School,
the crime of murder is shaking up.
Our cameras brought you here to the 5500 block of Pershing in the Central West End. This is where he was murdered.
Wasn't even out in the streets. He was in his apartment.
Someone killed Watkins 1 day before he was supposed to move out of his first apartment.
My last weekend. I say, yeah, this is your last weekend here.
Angela tells me she remembers almost everything about that last weekend of June, especially the first thing doctors told her.
They said there was nothing they can do.
Angela is now raising Kenneth's son, her grandson. She says Kenneth's death is even more unfortunate because he was just months away from becoming a police officer. Something even more remarkable because one of his best friends says he was a former gang member.
That was one of our main connections, was the fact that we both used to be in the streets. He was a Blood and I was a Crip, and it was kind of weird that we actually were able to come together and be friends.
Police, family, and friends also say what really stood out about Kenneth was his drive to make his life better.
That was his motivation as well, taking care of his mom, his son, his sister, and that's what he always talked about. I gotta do this, I'm gonna make it.
And unfortunately for all the people this future police officer could have touched and helped, Kenneth is now made into a crime statistic. He is homicide number 49 out of 90 in the city of St. Louis, and city police tell me there have not been any arrests in this case. Live in the Central West End, Laura Hettiger, News 4.
The only thing more disturbing than a child's murder is learning that a family member is indeed charged with the crime. Laura Hettiger, I know that you've been talking to people who know this family well. What are they saying?
Well, Sharon, we have been here all day in Watson since 7 o'clock this morning. We've been talking to volunteers, neighbors, authorities, and investigators. But I'll tell you, it's those family friends, the ones who say they knew the family who lived here before Willow disappeared, that really gave us an idea of who this family is.
They were a very close-knit family that Debbie, her children were her whole life. Willow was the grandma's whole life.
Today, that close-knit family must come to terms that one of their own, 22-year-old Justin DeReich, is the man police say killed little Willow Long, his own niece. Tina Sapp is a close family friend and neighbor of the DeReichs.
So knowing them on a personal level has actually been real hard.
She says Debbie and Dale DeReich, Willow's living grandparents, alerted her and her husband, the town mayor, about the 7-year-old's disappearance before they called the authorities. She also says Justin DeReich was the last person to see Willow alive. As the search ended and the criminal investigation started, we had to know if all these volunteers spent 2 days searching for a little girl that someone inside her own home knew would never come back home. Do you think someone took her out of the home, or do you think it was someone in the home?
I really don't know. I've had thoughts both ways. So I don't want to think the bad way, considering I know the family, and it's really hard for me to think and believe that someone inside the home had something to do with it. But there again, knowing Willow, she wouldn't have ventured off very, very far on her own.
And just within the last 10 minutes, I had a chance to speak with Willow's grandfather, that is Justin's father, and he told us quite a story of what he says happened to his granddaughter. And Sharon, News 4 is working very hard to confirm that story. Once we do, of course, we'll pass it along to everyone on News 4 and also our website, KMOV.com.
All right, Laura, could be quite a bombshell. You'll get back to us.